You're listening to the Help, I'm a Contractor podcast with Seth Lewis. This podcast is dedicated to helping hardworking contractors share ideas with other contractors. Seth is educated through the School of Hard Knocks, a contractor, business coach, and author. Seth helps contractors break through recurring challenges by helping them study themselves first. Seth's unique approach is guaranteed to take you from your current reality to your business dream. Learn more at www.startthemo.com. Here is your host, Seth Lewis.
Today on the show, I have Chris Lalomia, and I'm really excited about this show because he is the founder of the Home Service Institute, and he is passionate about training service technicians. And boy, do we know this, if you're an owner, you know what it's like to have to communicate your message and try to connect with technicians, and you hope that they do the right job. So I'm excited to talk to Chris today and hear his take and his expertise on how he does this and what he can share to our community and our network. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, Seth, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and talking with you. And we talked earlier, and I'm always excited to talk about customer service and training technicians.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you tell me a little bit more about, your business, how you got into this? You're passionate about the service industry, and we'll dive into that over the course of the show, but maybe just set the stage.
Yeah, so I started a business called The Trusted Toolbox, which is a handyman remodeling company here in Atlanta about 13 and a half years ago, back in 2008. And I realized at the time, I thought I'm in the handyman remodeling business, but it hit me about 3 years ago. I'm really in the training business now. And as we kept going after it and training and getting those guys to go out there and be the face of my company, we've got 25 employees out there running around doing work in people's houses every day. I realized, man, I think we have a good training idea here. And so I actually turned it over to my operations manager at the time, let him run with the training. And I sat in the back, kind of coaching and quarterbacking, and realized we had something that we could probably provide to a number of industries around how to train home service technicians.
What did you see was missing in the construction or service-based industries?
Easy. Professionalism, communication, working with customers on a level that they're used to be working with. You realize a lot of people we work for are in the white collar industry. These are people who may be working with computers or projects or making materials go through and do supply chain and logistics. And they're used to white collar work. They're used to putting on a suit and tie, and not much maybe that anymore, but a collared shirt and going to work and dealing with the corporate world. And when they deal with us in the profession in the home services space, they're usually expecting a lower level of communication, number one, lower level of service than what they have to provide at their own work. And we'll usually put up with a few rough edges around if you will, but after a while they get a little tired of it. So that's what I thought was really missing, was the professionalism.
When you think about professionalism and you think about the service industry and how it operates, I agree 100%. It's something that's been lacking in our industry, and people don't know how to do it. What would you say that type of individual, the person that is hiring the service business, could you tell me a little bit more about what you think they expect from a service contractor?
Yeah, I think a lot of times the expectations are relatively low, which is a good thing because then we can go ahead and exceed that mark. But by and large, they're expecting us to come out there and probably provide a free estimate. And we're in that world, and there's a lot of people out there saying we should all stop doing it. I'm in that camp, but I haven't stopped. Then they expect to say, okay, what are you going to do? What service are you going to provide? Okay, then I'll give you a sum of money when you tell me what that cost is going to be. All right, when can you show up? And they'll probably going to be willing to work with us and be a little flexible, knowing that maybe we can't get the materials, maybe another job is running over. They'll deal with it. But when they're saying that, what we also know, and this is one of the first secrets of the customers that I talk about with my guys, is that we're in an instant gratification world, right? Today, Seth, you and I want to watch a movie, we can go get it on our phones. If you want to talk to my kids, they can figure out how to bootleg and get the movies that just came out. If we want to have hot food, we can have Uber Eats, we can have anything. When somebody sends you a text message, what do you expect? A text back, right? So these people expect it, and their lives are very busy. So they expect instant gratification. And so they'll put up with a little bit, but over time it starts to wear them down, and it'll start to sound like, hey, I'm a little too busy for you. No, I can't see you today. Hey, you got to get out of my house. It's time for dinner. You didn't show up when you're supposed to show up. And they won't say it like that because they don't want to have confrontations. But in our instant gratification society, that's what these people expect, is that the minute we show up, the job is done.
So that's a tough task to accomplish, but I agree with you 100%. And I love this. I love the way that you break this down, because that is the world we live in. It's exactly it. If you want, whether it's Amazon or any of these things, you can do it right from your phone and you get it right away. So I really love your mission and how you're connecting that to the world we live in. And I think service businesses as a whole are missing this. They're by far missing it of, how do you do that? So I want to dive in a little bit more to that and say, somebody that wants a service business right away, and maybe you can clarify or share some of the service businesses that you work with or this is good for. And, how do they get that? I guess the question would be scratch that itch, because if you're putting on a roof, maybe you can't do it right away. Or if you're doing this or that, how do you scratch that itch of the instant gratification in the service business?
Yeah. So that's a great point. So this is really not for that instant thing. So if you have a busted pipe, if you have a hole in your roof, if you had a tree that fell through your house with the tornadoes that fell through, that's instant, right? So that you've got to react quickly. And those businesses know how to do that. They're a 24/7 response. And that's what people expect. But for a lot of us in home services, what people are asking us for are more luxury items. I want to get my sink faucet replaced. I want to get my air conditioner up to speed and serviced. And in my case, I want to get a door changed out or a window changed out or some window treatments put up, whatever it may be. They're willing to wait, but as long as you tell them and communicate with them when you're going to show up and then fulfill that promise by showing up when you say you're going to, people will wait because they don't want to be bothered, because they're off working and living their own life of instant gratification everywhere else. So you don't have to do it right away. You don't have to move and drop everything. In fact, one of the things we talk about at my company is we won't drop and go right away, because we want to make sure that we get the right guy to the right job with the right materials in hand. Because if any one of those three things don't work, we didn't fulfill our promise of finishing that job. So this is really built, the training that we do is really built for that home service technician for a number of industries. It's really industry agnostic, but carpet cleaners, window washers, maid services, duct cleaners, HVAC electricians, plumbers, of course, handyman, because I know that one the best, and even remodelers.
So I know we all have probably bad experiences, with contractors, or have worked or have seen some image in our head of what that looks like. But this might be a little fun to just kind of go and maybe joke a little bit about, what are some of the things that people accept as the standard norm in the home service business? So
this is a great one. What will they put up with? They'll put up with the guy who comes in with maybe the dirty, tattered jeans because, hey, we're workers. They'll put up with the guys who got the grease under their fingernails because, hey, we're workers. They may even put up with the guy who says, hey, I got to take off and get lunch, or I've got to leave early to go get my kid today, because they understand that we have lives. But when those things start to really build up and the reasons become, and I have kids, one reason is a reason, two reasons, now you're just giving me excuses. And that's what they start to hear. And then in our world, they'll start to not put up with it as much. But we do come to expect that. You know what? And a great example of why I got in the business, I was working the typical corporate world job. That's why I took the leap to start this business, working 80 hours a week, crazy stuff. Never get home. We started hiring services to come in the house. We hired a guy, $35 an hour. She found him off a buddy, a friend, whatever. He comes and does all the work. And on Saturday morning, I went and looked at it, and the brick mold wasn't done correctly. The trim was bad. The drywall repair was horrible. And I looked at my wife and said, I can't believe we just paid this guy. And she looked at me and says, oh, don't worry, you can fix it. So I put up with it because, that's what you do. I was like, oh, you know what? I kind of get with it. So we'll put up with a little bit of a mess, or maybe not the best quality because we're kind of going to give that guy a break. But when you start to develop a professional organization and put a professional brand out there, like I did with the Trusted Toolbox, people start to expect that level to go up. And then it starts to be more in line with the service that they're used to getting from their dry cleaners, their Uber drivers, their Uber Eats, they're going to the grocery store. So they won't put up with as much if you start to put that expectation out there, which starts to make you more unique as a service provider, which hence gets you more business.
With the Trusted Toolbox, how does a contractor know when it's time? So ideally, you might want to start that way from the beginning, but as we know, it doesn't always end up that way. When do you know it's time to make that pivot? And you made a great point there with the Trusted Toolbox where you said people started to expect what we were delivering. So how do you know when that kind of takes place? When did you know?
It didn't happen overnight. It happened after a series of those calls that I would get as the owner, pick up the phone, and they would start with, he was a nice guy, bud. And then they would start in with the litany of the issues. They usually started with quality because they knew that as an owner, that's what we're most passionate about. But really what it started to come down to is that we didn't hit their expectations. He's a nice guy, but he didn't clean up after himself. He's a nice guy, but he left a pile of trash on the side of the house. He was a nice guy, but he just didn't do it the way you would have done it. Chris, why don't you come out here and take a look? And then when it really comes down to what they said, it was, he was a nice guy, but he just wasn't you. I'm like, okay. So then I started to realize that it wasn't their fault. And it was more about the way I was training them. So what I really had to do with my artists who are skilled tradesmen is I had to tell them what's in it for them. And what's in it for them is you'd follow the way I'm telling you how to get into the transaction and start working, and you're going to get out of it making more money, probably going to get a tip. People are going to tell you how great you are because that's what we like to do to satiate our ego. And the guys started liking it. And when I instituted this training, my average tenure of my handyman was 7 months. And today it's over 2 years.
That's awesome. I want to highlight something that you said that I think is really key for business owners. I talk to business owners across the country, and a lot of times the conversations I'm listening to challenges that they're having. But the thing that you said was with your process, and I really want to commend you on this and recognizing this. And this is the secret sauce to that switch. You said, I realized it was something in the process that basically I was training them or not training them or the lack thereof. That is a big one. So I want you to listen to that on repeat. Go back and listen to that one because that's the secret sauce. That is exciting because as owners, we don't realize that it's actually something that we're not giving our techs or we're not doing or training or teaching that they don't know. And then we wonder why we're not getting the result that we desire. And I just think that's big. I mean, that is just a great point. And that, I mean, and you can comment on this, but I'm sure when you did that and identified that and realized what it was, it changed everything.
It did change everything. I actually published a book called From the Zoo to the Wild. Okay, shameless plug. But I talked about this section in the book, and that is when I first started the business, I was off and running and building the business. And then I got a rash of those callbacks of, hey, he was a nice guy, but. So I actually I had 4 guys at the time. I told them all to take Thursday and Friday off. I'm going to go fix these all myself. And when I went in there and started digging in, it started to hit me. It was my process. And so it's the little thing. This is back when I was a paper-based company. This is back when we had flip phones and we were still using Garmin's to get around with GPS, right? In today's world, you'll be like, wow, that's like working like off of a phone and a weather template or something, whatever. So I realized that when they got there, they looked at the work order that they had, and then they started working. So I said, no, from now on, you call your customer 30 minutes ahead of the intended appointment time. Okay, so that took some time. And then I said, you have to get a signature on that piece of paper that says, I authorize you to start, because you guys both looked at that piece of paper and you realized that's what we had to do. And then you had to get a signature to say you were done. Just making those little changes. And by now, in today's world, we have tablets that the guys go out with. We have a lot more technology at our fingertips that we can use. We can get automated text messages to the people, letting them know when we're coming. So there's a lot of tools, but it's the process. It's not the technology, it's the process. at getting these guys. And getting these guys bought into it is even bigger. Because let's face it, if you're a plumber, you're an electrician, you're a great carpenter, you're a great painter, you just want to get there and show off your work and get it done. But by telling these guys, hey, you do this stuff, you do these things, you follow this process, and you can make more money, and at the end get a tip and get adulations, and people say, man, that's just really good. And they started to buy into it, and that was big, because it's up to them to say that, do what we're asking them to do.
Another thing that you mentioned was speaking the language. And I think that's an interesting concept and point that I'd like you to expand on. You realized about, what your workers were, artisans, craftsmen, and you were able to kind of relay it in their language. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you realized and what that led to?
I think for all home service providers, regardless of industry, electricians, plumbers, even window washers and carpet cleaners, all of those guys that are working for us as owners or service managers, all are artists in their mind. They're all skilled trades. They bring not only their skills, but a lot of times their own tools, but they have their knowledge that they bring as well. So when they bring that, they're working, and they were also guys who didn't want to go to school, right? They're not going to sit in a classroom, and they don't want to be preached to. They don't want to hear Chris say, come on, guys, got to call your customers half an hour ahead. You got to get a signature. After a while, they start tuning you out, going, blah, blah, blah. That's just noise. Let me go do my thing. So what we do is we engage that brain. Those guys like to learn. They don't like to learn in a classroom, but they like to learn with their hands. They like to be told a good story, maybe learn something a little bit more about something they didn't know. And as long as you do the customer service piece, then you get to talk about your operations piece. But the one thing we talk about a lot is you got to give something back to them to make their job easier, whether it's a new tool that came out or a new technique. But by telling that story, so what we did at the Home Service Institute is we tell a story. They get engaged, they start engaging their artist brain, and then you hit them with the points you want.
This show is brought to you by Momentum U. If you are an owner and you're ready to scale up and break past recurring challenges, it's time to start studying you. You are the only common piece between all your success and recurring challenges. You are the only person that can unlock your untapped momentum. Let us show you how. Go to www.startthemo.com to learn more.
Which is, hey, when a customer has an objection in the middle of the job and says, hey, I've got a question about what you're doing, this is how you answer that objection and answer that question. But we start out with a story of how great mountain climbers have overcome objections all their way. And so they understand and they get it.
Storytelling's a very powerful, underused, underutilized, everything. I could go on about that, so much about the storytelling, but it's the way that we talk every day. It's the way we communicate. And especially when you have a person that thinks more of an artist person or pretty much anything. I mean, if you study even speaking to groups, they always teach you to incorporate stories because it connects and it closes. So anytime you're trying to drive a point home, even with your crews, I highly recommend, and I love what you're saying about incorporating stories. Is there something that connected or that you did one day and you're like, wow, that they really got the point that I was trying to make? Or where did you come up with that?
So when I turned it over to my operations manager, as a business owner, one of the big things I think we all have is we have a little bit of a blind spot on how our customer service process works and what our true customer service looks like. We think, hey, man, nobody called me, no big deal. So I sat there going, guys, call your customer. Guys, call your customer. They weren't doing it. I'm picking up the phone at 9 o'clock. They're asking, customers are asking, hey, where's your guys at? I'm like, man. I finally turned it over and said, all right, you think you're so smart, man, go do this. Let's go tell a story. He said, I got a great story. When he tells this story, and we put it out there on the homeserviceinstitute.com's website, and the module that we talk about in the story is Call the Ball. And it's talking about how an aircraft pilot has to land on an airplane carrier. So out there in the water, got to land that plane. Who doesn't think that's cool, right? And when you tell that story, you know that every guy in that room thinks they're the jet pilot. Absolutely, right? So you tell the story, but when you tell the story about calling the ball, it's one point at the whole landing process where the pilot actually takes over and says, I call the ball and I'm going to land this plane. But before that, he had crews getting things ready. He had all kinds of air traffic control and people getting things ready for him. And as you tell that story and show a picture or a video of that plane landing, you got all those guys hooked. And then you turn around and go, guys, when you call the ball, that means you're calling your customer. That means you're telling your dispatcher, you got this. The customer is now yours. And then I started to see the transformation. And so it was when I kind of took the hands off the wheel and let my guy do his thing. And then I sat back and we refined it a little bit. It really has hammered home a great point.
That's tremendous. Great example. So many points there to highlight. One of them, even the last thing that you said was, how many times as owners do we struggle to let go? And when we do, the result is better than when we're involved. That's always a fun thing to, to joke about and laugh. It's like, can you give this to somebody that's better than, we are? And it's amazing because they do such a great job. And I just want to encourage you, if you're listening too, what's that thing you need to get rid of? That really can make a difference, in your organization.
It's hard to let go, but also it's rewarding when you see it, when you empower somebody and they do something even better than you thought could be done. And it really fulfills you as a leader. So you're right. Let go of that one thing. And maybe it's a small thing, but it's that small mundane thing like bookkeeping, which is a bad word. I don't want to hear about that one.
Yeah, that can get a lot of people. One, you got to do it, but two, can be a lot of work and a lot of different things, but you got to know your numbers. You got to have a good one or delegate it, great stuff. Talk a little bit more about the Home Service Institute and, how they do that. It complemented your business, but, what businesses is it good for? How does it work? Just kind of dive into a little bit more about that.
So the Home Service Institute, I put together a team that can work in one of a couple of ways. We can work on a consulting basis and help you implement training. But what you got to understand as a home service owner today is that in our world today, anybody can be a home service business owner because there's so much work out there to be had right now. But it's going to change and we're going to have to get better at it. And one of the big blind spots, I heard it from all of the guys I talked to. Do you need training? I need training. But really, I need guys. I need training. But I need more sales. I need training, but I need more leads. So it's never the number one pain point, but I'm here to tell you that it's one of those things where it is a pain point and a big blind spot for a lot of us. So whether you're putting in floors or you're finishing floors or you're putting in carpet or you're painting houses or you're installing windows and doors and even doing stuff outside of the house, the customer service piece is the differentiator. It makes you more unique and it's going to drive profitability, employee tenure, and employee behavior, because happy employees mean happy customers, and happy customers mean we get 5 stars, and 5 stars means that we get a better rating out there on Google. So we can work with companies on a consulting basis and help them implement this training. We also have a subscription-based service where they go, hey, you know what? I don't have the time, but it's not going to be that hard. What's the minimum number I can get in? So for as low as $1,500 a year, you can get in and get access to these modules, and you can give this to your service manager to help implement him and do consistent training, because that's the key. If you don't do it at least twice a month, you're going to lose the momentum that you've got. And believe it or not, this is kind of a sneaky culture kick. And that's the other thing I noticed with my guys. I think I have a pretty strong culture in my company, but the training started to cement it. So literally tomorrow morning, we have training again, first time getting going for the year again. And I know those guys are going to come in. We play some music. We got the environment up and going, show some videos of some of the work we've done. We're giving them Chick-fil-A biscuits. We're in the South. That's a big thing. But we only keep them there for an hour, and then they're out there making money, because I was worried that our utilization would go down. I'm like, man, I'd take these guys off the road for an hour. No, change the whole way we work, because a lot of our guys start from their houses. It's the one time every couple of weeks they get to come together as a group and share and also compare how they're doing against others, which is also good for competition.
One of the things that you said is the cost, and pain points drive people to make decisions. So when it's not the number one pain point, like you said, it kind of gets brushed to the side. They say, I need sales, I need labor. Labor is the thing everybody says. I mean, spot on there. Need labor, need labor. So they overlook the training portion of it. One of the things that I like to do is put a number on everything. We put numbers. We live in a world that's dollars and cents. So I'd like to help the audience understand, this will be a little fun exercise, what that cost of not training is. So you actually said, it might be service, it's, all these things. Let's just have a little fun and break that down to say, by not training your people and not investing in that, what's it actually costing you? Because you don't think it's a big cost, but we're going to prove that wrong right here.
We are. I got you. I got it in 3 ways. All right. Number one, we all know from marketing, it takes $5 to get a customer. It takes $1 to keep a customer. So we all want repeat business and everything we got. So there's one right there, 5 to 1. What is the cost to acquire? Well, for a lot of us, it might be a $50 call. It could be up to as high as a $200 call, depending on the business we're in, and maybe even lower. Doesn't matter. But when you have that, what's the cost of getting one of your employees? So once you get them, you get them trained up, you get them going, and he's out there doing a great job, and you continually have turnover, you can rely on process. But if they go out there and do a great job, that customer wants to have you come back again. So there you go. There's one. But the cost to get one of these guys who can bring in revenue for you. And again, for most of us, what does an average technician bring for you in revenue every year? Go answer that question for yourself right now. Because one customer may do a $2,000 job with you, heck, maybe even a $20,000 job with you. But how much does that technician bring in? For a lot of us, it's anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000 a year. So if I keep that guy with me and he's providing for his family and he's happy and he's doing it, it's great. Then there's that great customer slink away. You went to do the job. The guy showed up a little late, maybe looked a little disheveled, maybe didn't hit the expectations he wanted. And the customer had 5 more things they wanted us to do. So in my case, my guys are not salespeople. My technicians, not sales. But by putting this in, I said, guys, also, when you're there, is there anything else you want me to look at? We added 10% to our overall gross revenue just off add-on sales from technicians who are not salespeople. So add all that up, put that all together, look at it in your business, 5 to 1, 50 to 100,000 a year, and then these guys added 10% to my gross last year alone. It's a no-brainer. Got to do training. So why aren't we doing it?
I love that. We speak in dollars and cents, and that's so powerful. It's so important to break it down like that, and you can see. So if you need training right now, now's the time to book it, go on, get it, do it, call Chris, make it happen if you're in the service business. You have to think about things of how they cost and the impacts. And too many times as business owners, we just look at the surface issue, the labor. Well, if you go back to that, like building on this with retention, if you would have kept the tech that was good, you wouldn't have a labor problem. So it keeps going back. It's like train. You're going to get better results. Your customer builds a relationship. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're swinging to millions, when you think about this. So I just got to put a plug in for all the contractors, invest in training. When you say you need labor, when you say that there's this crisis of this and that, if you train your people, if you treat them well, I love the idea of getting that camaraderie in the morning. That's awesome. And thinking about their family, how are they going to make money and what are they going to do? I think it would be also helpful maybe to share a little bit for techs, how do you maybe incentivize them, or how do you get them to feel like they're, a part of that mission? I mean, story was one of them. Is there any other ways or things that you do?
We do a couple things and it's a great point too, because what gets measured gets improved. We probably have all heard that before. So what do you measure? And I'm actually known as a big numbers guy, love it, but I'm also a customer service freak. So I'm more important about that. So I have 3 metrics that I put on the guys. The first metric is, if you get a good review, I'm going to give you an extra $25. Just get me a good Google review, because I know that if you ask for that review at the end, I know that number 1, you're proud of the work. Number 2, you're pretty sure that they liked what you did. And number 3, you finished the transaction and you got the signature. So I know a good review is dynamite. So $25. And I've had people say, man, that's a lot of money. I'm like, phew, That's nothing, man, for me, and it pumps these guys up. Number two, anything they add on at the job that's not originally in the scope of work, they get an extra percentage of that money. So they get a little sales bonus. I'm not asking them to be salesmen. I don't want them to be salesmen. I don't want them to sit there and do all the talking I do as a sales guy and an estimator. I want them working, but by doing great work, they can do this. The last thing that we do, and we incent them on, is if you deliver so many dollars of labor in a month, you get an extra 2 to 3% bonus. Therefore, we want guys who are working full-time with us, because I'd rather have 15 full-time guys than 30 part-time guys trying to manage that customer experience. We also do some really cool things throughout the year. We occasionally do contests. So at the end of last year, what we do is we do some contests around, you take a picture with the yard sign up with the picture of the van behind it, you get so many points. You get a picture in one of your customers' cars, you get another point. So the guy who got the most points got to do, we have a Christmas tool giveaway at the end. The number one point getter gets to go first and pick some tools. He picked a Milwaukee pack out. The next guy gets up, he gets the Porter cable, nail gun, and pancake compressor. And so of our 15 guys, they cycle through twice and get to buy it, but the number one point getters get to get it. You should have seen these guys taking pictures. One of my guys took a picture in one of our customers' Maseratis. It was awesome. What a great picture.
Yeah, that's great. That culture is so important, building it, getting people engaged. And when you get that, that's an exponential multiplier of what's happening in the organization. So, I mean, that's just a great job. I love to hear that.
Yeah, big thing is it's not all about money. You got to reward these guys on the level they want. So the other thing that they like about what we do is we do so many different things in the handyman world, but I'll bring in experts to come talk to us. So we'll bring in our Sherwin-Williams rep and talk about painting. We'll bring in the Simpson Tide local rep and the AZEC and TimberTech reps, and we'll talk about how to repair a deck or how decks are built better. We're going to bring in Milwaukee tools, and they're going to come in and train us not only on safety, but also tool demonstration. Because who doesn't want a Milwaukee tool if you're a professional in this business, right? We all do. So they love that we give that stuff back too. And it's not, again, just about money.
So I'm a service contractor, let's say, and I hear this and I clearly see the value. I say, this is something that I need. With the Home Service Institute, what would I get and what would I learn in the journey? What's that look like?
Yeah, it's in the journey. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask you what your biggest pain point is, because you're probably not going to say training. You're going to probably lead towards it because you're talking to us at the Home Service Institute. But we're going to find out what your biggest pain point is. Oh, my guys don't seem to finish the jobs. My guys don't seem to collect very well. Because in training today, if you're actually doing it, you're reactionary. You're reacting to the last guy who screwed something up. That last phone call where you said, he's a nice guy, but, oh, come on, man, why didn't you just finish that job? So we're going to find that out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lay out the training program for you and put you on a plan that's going to take you from 0 to 6 months, where that's 12 training sessions, and then eventually get 24 in and get it out through a whole year. And when you get 24 training sessions in a whole year, look how far you can go. And then you'll also get access to my old operations manager, who is now the general manager of the Home Service Institute. And he's going to keep you and hold you accountable to make sure you're continually doing it, because just like anything, right? I like to work out. Well, I'm not in the best shape. Well, when I got a personal trainer, I started paying for it. I started getting in shape a little bit more. I know how to do it, but this guy held me accountable to it. So we're going to hold you accountable to it, make you stick to it. And you're going to start to see it, whether you want it or not. You're going to start to see that culture change. And we have in a number of companies.
What are the first steps, or where would they find your information?
Yeah, so my name is Chris Lalomia. You're going to see me out there at a number of things. I'm on Instagram. I'm the customer service freak on Instagram, but I'm also on Facebook. But we have thehomeserviceinstitute.com as a website. I actually put my book out there, From the Zoo to the Wild. You can find me there. But find your way in and matriculate into our community and start talking with myself and Ed, who's my general manager on this stuff. And you'll start to see that not only do we have a passion for this, but you can start to see the difference. And it really is not going to take you that much time, because that's the biggest thing I hear from the guys. Man, I don't have time to do this. I'm the owner. I'm the service manager. I got to go out there and fight fires. I got to go out there and get more customers. I got to go out there and balance my books. Oh, did I say it again? I did. I'll get over that one. Obviously, you can see where I'm at.
Must be that time of year.
That's that time of year. But we'll give you your time back. And when you get your time back and you start to see your company grow without you having to invest that much time and just put some passion behind it, we're going to give you that plan. Because I started doing this in a small little conference room with 6 of us sitting around a table and me writing on an easel that I borrowed from a guy. And today I've got this elaborate training center with, I've got videos, and we have all kinds of vignettes around that people can go actually put their hands on. But you can start as small as that, and it really made a difference.
What's the biggest thing that you've learned or that maybe stood out in this journey so far?
The biggest thing I learned was it was me who was stopping us from doing training. I was the one who went, you know what, not today. I don't want to put together training and come in early and do that in the morning. I know the guys don't like it. I don't like it. And I was a self-defeating, self-prophesizing, fulfilling that prophecy of, why am I keep picking up the phone? He's a nice guy, bud. And that was the biggest surprise. The guys actually, who've been with me for 6 and 7 years now, came up to me last year and said, I get why you do this now. I didn't think I would learn anything. And I have to admit, I kind of look forward to it, seeing the guys, and I do learn something. I get out of here.
And I want to encourage the contractors and owners that are listening that are a little bit smaller, because it's such a hard dynamic when you have only a guy or two or a couple guys and you're just going and you feel like you got to get in and get out there. So I love what Chris, you said about that time, and we all battle with it. We all battle with, we got to get out and get that job. We got to do that. But you have to slow down. You got to recognize, and like what you shared with your people, really appreciate it. And again, number one challenge, labor. Your people are coming to you and saying, I appreciate this. This place is different. So if you want to create a culture, if you want people to stay, if you want to start solving your labor challenges, we have to think about it a little different. It's not about just having a better ad. It's about training. It's about doing things different. And I just get fired up about this because I'm fired up here because we miss the point of the labor shortage and some of these challenges, and there's ways to fix them. And this is one. And I love it.
That's great. Yeah, it's been big for us. We also have a big onboarding component here at my company that we would implement on a consulting basis with folks, because one of the things that I've done a lot of research on is whether you're a computer programmer or you've got guys working on a ship or you've got a seasonal business, onboarding of these gig economy employees is huge. The employees we're all looking to hire today, we may be aging out, but we've been talking about that for years. But those millennials that are aging in, the stats say right now that 50% of them will leave their job in the next 2 years, and 70% of them are looking for a new job right now. So when you get them, onboarding them and showing them the professionalism and why coming to your company is going to benefit them, I'm actually selling the story, which is far different than when I came up and I took my first job and I had to get an interview going with a guy saying, all right, tell me why I should hire you. Today, it's like, let me tell you why you should come here. And then you can tell me why you're such a great fit for our company.
That's tremendous. Love it. Quick couple questions at the end here. Just first thing that comes to your mind. The construction industry would be better if
we all took a little bit more professionalism and approach to what we're doing.
Highly agreed. I can build a blank in my sleep.
That's a great one. Because I immediately was going to what am I good at with my hands, and I'm just not as good at that. I can immediately build a PowerPoint in my sleep.
That's a good one. I was going to say a spreadsheet or the books or QuickBooks or something with.
Yeah, spreadsheets is probably a close second.
My biggest challenge is
going to be that labor that we talked about, getting people to buy in to being the face of our company and doing things the way I would want it done.
My biggest skill is
leadership. I feel like I really enjoy people and I enjoy leadership. A lot of people say that, but I do enjoy it. And I know some people who say, I hate it. I'm a solopreneur. The last thing I want to do is lead people and have to deal with them. I don't like doing it, but I really do it. And you get a lot of reward by watching a team solve a problem that was bigger than all of us.
And I think that's cool about that too, is it's something that grows over time and it takes work. And I think people don't always recognize what it takes. I'm sure have done a lot of work to become and learned a lot of lessons throughout your journey.
I've learned a lot of lessons. Probably the biggest one is one of my biggest soft points is my loyalty. I believe in people. I've given third chances. Yes, I've even given them fourth chance. I really have. And I know every book out there and every consultant out there would tell you, hire slowly, fire quickly, and you do the exact opposite or I do. And I know a lot of guys do as well.
All right. Cabin or beach house?
I have a cabin.
Ford or Chevy?
Chevy, baby. Got my Silverado, my 1500s out there.
There you go. Favorite brand of equipment?
I have to say the Milwaukee tools are my favorite. Just afraid to buy too many of them because mine seem to get lost on jobs. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
I like it. I want other business owners in construction and service businesses to know what?
I want them to know that you don't have to extinguish everybody else's flame to make your own shine brighter. That when you're doing this, working with the customer and having that integrity and running a good business is a lot better than trying to get away with something and do something or downplay somebody else. All too often I hear people say, badmouth that guy or badmouth this guy. And I just won't do it. I'm like, no, we're just not in that game, right? Because we all need to be better because right now that bar is so low. And I talk about professionals. I equate ourselves to people like lawyers, doctors, policemen, and firemen, all trading their skills and knowledge for time. And you never once questioned a bill you got from a lawyer or a doctor. You have to pay it. And if we can do that and show that professionalism, we get to get out of the commodity market and get back into that service provider market.
We're all better together. I love it. Thank you so much, Chris, for being on the show. I appreciate the insights, and I think this was a great episode.
All right. Thanks for having me, Seth. I really enjoyed it. Great interview.
Thanks again.
Thanks for listening. Like and share with other contractors. Start studying you to unlock your momentum. Go to www.startthemo.com to learn more.